It's kind of late, but I had this idea, and I thought I'd come down to the kitchen and give you guys a place. That's why I'm whispering to try to mess with these functions yourself a little bit. And so I've created this, like, I guess, digital playground for you to go ahead and enter your own functions and then mess with the sliders the way I was in the video. So you can see the tangent line moving and try to imagine what the derivative would look like. And then you can reveal things as you go to see, like, what's the y value of the derivative and what's the actual derivative. And then you can change the function and try again. But these can be kind of finicky and they're hard to set up. So I want to show you how to use it. And the first thing you're going to do is just go up here to where f of x is. You do not delete any of that stuff. If you delete that, the whole slide will break. But if that happens, if you do happen to break the slide, just click the refresh button. You're back where you started. The first thing you got to do is put some kind of function in there. I'll make some suggestions for you about functions to try, and then you can make up your own as well. For this demonstration, I'm going to use a very simple quadratic right now. And what you're going to see happen right off the bat is the function's going to pop up, and there's going to be a green tangent line right off the bat. So then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at that tangent line. We're going to move that point back and forth. And while we do that, we'll decide, will the derivative be positive here, 0 here, negative here, and how can I use that information to figure out what the derivative might look like. So I'll just kind of swing this back and forth, and I'm watching the point trace the curve, and I'm watching that tangent line. And the kinds of things I'm saying to myself in my head are things like over here, when x is like around -2 or so, like in this area, or -1, I guess, the y values of the derivative will be negative, and it'll be less negative, it'll be less negative, it'll be less negative. Maybe somewhere in here it's going to be 0, and then the y value will be more and more and more and more negative. So I expect as I swoop across this curve in my head, I'm seeing a y value that goes from really negative to not so negative to 0 to positive. So once I have a sense of what I think the y value, how it might be behaving, I'm going to click on this circle. This will show the y value of the derivative. And now it might be the case, by the way, when you click on that, there's no y value there. And that's because it's off the screen. So when I click on this, I barely caught it, right? If I'd been over here and I'd clicked on this, I'd be like, hey, there's no y value. It's just off the screen. So if that folder is showing you, it'll show you the y value when it can. So I expect to see it be negative and less negative and less negative, and then 0, and then more and more and more and more positive as my slope gets steeper and steeper and steeper. So I have a sense that that's what the derivative is going to do. And I can click on this finally to see, yeah, that's what I thought the derivative would look like. I expected something that was going to be negative, but less and less and less negative. At this point, I expected it to be 0, and then I expected it to be more positive and more and more and more and more positive. So then, now that I kind of did that exercise, I'm going to go ahead and click these off, leave the tangent line alone, go up here, and start all over again with a different kind of function. So I'll just throw something in here. I don't know, x cubed, I don't know, minus x squared plus 8. So that's not very good. So I might need to do some zooming in and zooming out of some things. This is where it gets a little wonky. This is what I'll suggest functions for you guys. By the way, when I suggest functions for you, I might do something like give you a function like this and then have the whole function, divided by 4. Whoops. I might do something like that. And I'm going to do something like that so that to kind of just bring this curve down to earth, and make it visible. So don't be alarmed by those weird constants that I throw in there if I divide by stuff. It's just to make the function so you can see what's happening better. Dividing by 4 would be too much, so I'll change it. But I just made one up. This was not a good example of what to just make up, but I'll make something up that'll make more sense. And I'll do the same thing. I'll be like, okay, let me move this line back and forth. I expect a derivative that's positive. Somewhere over here it'll be maybe 0, then it'll be negative, then positive again, Then I'll click on that y value. Yeah, it was positive. It was less and less positive at 0. It's negative, and then it's more and more positive. And then the actual derivative looks like, after I do that a couple times and get a sense of it, then I see the actual derivative itself. So play with this. If you happen to break it, just click the refresh button. I'll suggest functions for you. Move the thing back and forth, check. Look at the y value, check. Look at the derivative. But this is only going to be helpful and useful and work well if you try to picture the derivative before you actually reveal all the answers, I think. Well, who am I to tell you how to learn? Maybe you'll get more out of looking at the actual derivative moving back and forth, but whatever. Just play with it, move the slider back and forth, and try to have a good time with it. It's really, you guys, it's such an exciting thing that you're learning. It's all brand new stuff in your brain, so it's going to make your brain feel itchy, but it is just, you're going to feel yourself making new neural pathways, and it's just a fun time. Like, you don't get to learn a lot of things like this in your life that actually, where you can feel it infecting your brain. So good luck, and try not to be frustrated. Enjoy it. See you guys later.